Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good you.
Good, good. Hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to me a little bit today. I
No
appreciate it.
problem. Thank you so much for doing this. This is pretty cool actually. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to I guess it's considered a podcast, your show
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
Spotify, and just thought it'd be cool to get to talk to you a little bit about it and see a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
So, for anyone who doesn't quite know you outside of the podcast, give me a little like quick background run on your time in esports.
Yeah, it's always such a hard one because I've done so much, but we could sum it up in a couple of sentences well, I was a professional player for about 16 to 7 years in a game called Counter-Strike, and then later on Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is still popular to this day. And I won 5 to 6 official championship. I say 5 to 6 because I never counted some championships because they were not like the greatest, but a lot of my
Hmm.
coworkers and teammates count them. So,
Right, right.
let's just say 5 official world championships, and throughout, I would say decades. So I guess like we had ups and downs, just a little bit like any sports athletes, but we're able to manage to be champions for a decade. And now, like, I've always been an activist and like pretty vocal about making sure that in gaming we know we do things better, we try to do things better, and that overall, from tournament quality to like inclusivity, diversity, and whatnot, that we're doing an effort in our day-to-day. So uh, it's been, I would say, a big part of my last 5, 6, 7 years to be vocal about minorities, diversity, women in gaming, toxicity, cyberbullying, and whatnot. And then recently, I was able to rejoin Legend Gaming from a player to now a director. And they kind of gave me an opportunity to live my dream now that I'm not a competitor anymore, which is to make a difference and fight the good fight from within, right? And use CLG as a resource to create platforms and health and wellness series, and make a difference for our youth, and continue what we started with CLG Red, which is our female team, but expand it to more than that, which is the female and diversity community, and so on. And we've been pretty active in the last couple of weeks with everything that's been happening, actually.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, so how long have you been in the esports world?
So my first esports game was in '03, so 17 years,
Wow.
which is honestly, I don't know a lot of people that have done it for more than me. Like, I
Yeah,
know them, like we're friends, you know. So it's been a long time.
yeah. That's almost like founder level.
Yeah,
So
it
that's a
wasn't esports.
yeah,
It was the media that called it esports because they didn't know what to call us. That's
right.
how I feel. I don't think we self-proclaimed esports. I think it was like the media that was like, it's like sports, but it's e-gaming. And then they started to call it esports because we were just like, no, we're just gaming, right?
Exactly. So getting up to now, um, what's like a what are is within CLG, like what are some of your main responsibilities right now? Like
Yeah.
what does kind of a day in your life look like?
Yeah. So I do have a lot of initiatives that I started, and I tried to have that. So from our health and wellness hub, which is called the Engine, we release one video a week about how to help our community and our gamers, even our pro players, do better and be better and feel better. So whether it's a body or in the mind or in the game, so it's called the Engine, and we're working on the goal of the Engine is really to have like a centralized website and a hub for it. So we're working on making that happen. But right now it's the video series, which will lead to this beautiful hub that we're working on. So that's one of the initiatives. I also do a lot of with the Garden of Dreams and everything that the Madison's Garden is already doing in with the Knicks and the Rangers. We're trying to start these. So whether it's I'm giving you a scoop here because we haven't announced anything, but you hear a lot about the junior Knicks and the junior Rangers. So there's potentially something in the work. That's all I'm gonna tease regarding that, because I think that's a model that's working really well for our other platforms and our other teams. And during COVID, they have to adjust to online stuff, and for us, it's just a natural thing to be online. So there's something there to happen, but we're already working with the Garden of Dreams to do conferences and things behind the scenes for the youths. It's just not something that we showcase all the time because it's all like for our communities. But I also do a lot of I want to say, like, this week, I start shows, I start events, I start community competitions. We have a diversity Discord where we just talk about news that are a little bit different than your average esports news. It's more about successful stories that are happening across the world in our community that we feel is underdeserved, whether it's the LGBTQ community, gamers of colors now, because we saw what happened in the world, or what's happening right now in the US, and we thought, you know what, why don't we add that to our list of diversity and inclusion thing that we care so much. And we also have a lot of women, trans, cis, and whatnot that we try to support in these events and whatnot. And we also launched recently with the Valorant game that came out. We launched our competitive circuit, kind of called the CLG Blitz Cups, which, unlike our Red Cups, is our aim for the amateurs. They also aim for amateurs, but we also are doing some pro level stuff. So our price pool is a little bit higher, our production is a little bit higher, and we'll see where that goes. But we're trying to keep it, for the long run. If I want to say, it's not going to be like a one-off thing. We think it's
sustainable.
Yeah, we think it's important to be there for the community, which I think that one of my big problem that I look like when I look at esports is we're doing great for the pro level at the moment. Like, the pro level is super well deserved, from salaries to sponsor to organization and tournaments. But if you look like right underneath that, like to the semi-pro and then everything underneath, there's no support, or almost no support. So from amateur competition coaching in schools, like all of that is very, very underdeserved. So I think that's something that even if I can't change the world, maybe we can help in our little ways, whether it's with our health and wellness series or our small competitions.
Absolutely, that all sounds great. So what led you to the This Week in CLG segment specifically? Was that something that you came up with, or was that kind of pitched? Okay. And so, what's that about?
Go ahead. Yeah, the great thing about CLG is I think it's where the kind of environment I excel is, like, you have an idea and people are just, let's do it. And then I'm like, okay, it's as simple as that. And I just wanted for us to elevate our discussions to the topic of the moment, but also celebrate our victories, right? And our players. And I do feel that CLG, when I was there as a player and we all lived in LA, we were a family. And at some point, with us not having a campus anymore, us getting bigger, like I have difficulties as a CLG employee understanding what's going on at Fortnite and Apex. It's so difficult to follow these scenes. And I'm just like, I don't get it, So by creating the show, in a way, it was for me to understand what the hell is going on in these scenes. I want to support my own players, and I don't even know how, right? So I was like, why don't we create a show where if you're a CLG fan, you will actually be able to understand what's going on in CLG, other than just a post, this is happening, and congrats, you won, right? Which I think is a lot easier in League of Legends, but in other games, they're different, and they're extremely difficult to follow, some of them, because the community is completely different than what I'm used to. So I was like, let's just do it. And then, we're about to hit our 10th episode, and it evolved already from like episode 1 to 10, where now we invite guests on the show. And yes, we celebrate CLG, but we also kind of talk about what's going on and with these beautiful people that we have on guests. We even had like people from FlyQuest, like competitors, and we just think that it's a way to all showcase how great esports is. And one of my favorite show was definitely the one where we talk about diversity and racial issues, as well as the Pride Month. That show was really full of emotion. We all cried on it. It was a really intense one, and I think it was a necessary one. And I'm glad we did it. And then the NBA 2K2 was good because I don't understand anything. And we have the Knicks gaming at MSG, and I didn't know anything about their world other than they were having matches, right? So it was great. It's just great to kind of get to know your quote unquote family, which I think that too often you sign on, you put the jersey, and you don't know who the player on your team are. Like I've talked to so many players where they had another division and they've never talked to them.
Yeah.
So we try to put them on the same show, sometimes do cross mix, and we try to have fun with it so that they want to come back.
Yeah, exactly. So what you obviously, I can tell from listening to your podcast that you follow some esports pretty fully. Like you seem involved in them and a fan. Which games would you say you find yourself watching the most, or which esports are you most invested in as like a fan?
Well, it's hard not to say Counter-Strike just because of my background. But I like to think that I used to watch fighting games so much. I think fighting games are probably the most hype esports to watch, especially in real life. Like they're so incredible to be in the room where the energy is happening. And also because everybody roots for everybody, right? It's not like an esports team where there's a clear definite, when there's a game, it's like people on team A and people on team B. Like
right.
in a fighting game environment, whoever is doing some crazy thing, everybody's yelling for it. You're not like, oh, my player's losing. It's more like, oh, that's so crazy. So like the fighting games are pretty hype. But right now the community I think is a little underdeserved during COVID. So I would think that my favorite game to watch. Oh, this is such a hard question right now these days.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be one. I'm just curious which ones, because like you were saying,
there's Counter-Strike.
Yeah, there's so many games. You know, if you go on Twitch and you browse, there's I really think it's impossible for any one person to be fully invested in every single esport that there is. As somebody who works at the Game Haus, where we have writers and interviewers and people who are, you know, mostly dialed into one or two, but I hear, you know, we're in chats and everything where they're discussing all the news, and it's just so infinite. So I'm curious which ones, you know, Counter-Strike is obviously one.
Probably Counter-Strike. Like,
games.
Right now, if you tell me wake up in the middle of the night to watch an esports, I would say I could do it. I could still do it for Counter-Strike. Like if it was a major and it was in Asia, I would wake up. Valorant maybe soon. Like I'm tuning in on Valorant
to be
competitive.
Yeah.
Like I'm already like checking, oh, there's a competition. Okay, I'll try to watch the final. And obviously being on CLG, I never miss a league game. Right. And I think it's important for me, especially now as a staff member, but even before when I was a player, to understand the league world, because it dictates a lot of the esports, I would say, environment and the way that people feel about CLG, because League of Legends is so part of our DNA. But although I think that CLG right now is way more than just its League of Legends team, it's still a very important part of our DNA. So, especially with what happened last season where we finished like 10th. It's important to be there for the guys, support them, understand what's going on. Like I don't want to be that person that's just like, well, I don't care about league because we're losing, or we've never played league. I've never played league, so I don't care for them. Like I want to be able to feel for them and to understand what they're going through as a competitor, especially being there before. So I would say that I watch a lot of league right now, but I don't think I'm a fan of watching league when I don't root for team A or team B. Like, you know.
Right. Just regular streaming and that kind of stuff, you're not really into it. But when it's the LCS, that you are invested in that.
Yeah. So when it's a game that matters to me, I like league. When if not, I don't like watching league. So I think that's probably different from like when I watch CS or fighting games or Like I can appreciate the other games, whoever is playing. But when I watch League, I can't. It's either my lack of knowledge that I can't process like the good in the plays, or just I can't connect with the players. There's something where,
Right.
also a lot of the league players are not the content creators, but the actual league pros are very stoic, like
Mm-hmm.
no emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm someone that's like French Canadian, I'm very hard. So I like to see like, yeah, you like Counter-Strike or shooters or, or fighting. So when I like see people with absolutely zero emotion playing the game, it's really hard for me to get a feel of their personality and say, hey, I like this guy. I want to root for him. Right. When I watch sports, I always find a guy or a girl and I'm like, oh, I like her style, the way she walks, whatever. But in League of Legends, I don't have that, so I can't
Yeah,
connect.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
Unless
let me
they're
tell
wearing
you,
the CLG dress.
someone who's interviewed a few LCS pros, your energy is definitely very different than your
Yeah.
typical LCS pro. Yeah, it's just a different world. So talk to me a little bit about your upcoming episode, if you
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
Someone told me that you're going to have some guests.
Yeah.
And I think I will find it interesting, and fellow League of Legends fans might be interested.
Yeah.
I just listened to I think it was your second to most recent one that had Stixay
Yes.
and some of the coaches.
Yeah.
And so that was really great. It was great to have them talk in sort of an informal setting about last split and what kind of their thought process is coming into this split. And so tell me a little bit about your upcoming episode and what, I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it, but.
No, I'm allowed to tell you anything I want because it's not happening. We didn't record it, so I can't scoop too much.
Yeah.
But it's a live show, and I think that's what's great about this week compared to a lot of what we're used to at CLG, but also in esports, is that it's not pre-recorded. We can't cut the parts that we don't like. It's
Right.
it's all just open-hearted discussions. And that episode you're referring to, we talked about how bad we were last split, and we were just pretty honest about it. So, and I think that it matters especially for fans, but it matters to me that we acknowledge these things. So coming up, it's gonna be with LS and Tafo. So I had to learn a little bit about LS being on CLG because he's part of our organization, but he is a professional caster and for the LCK, which is the League of Legends a version of RSCS in Korea. And so from what I told, this will be my first encounter with LS as a discussion, and it's going to be live, so I'm looking for it. But from what I told, he's the kind of human I probably like in life, who stands up for his values, but also pushes to help others and fix things. And he doesn't have in French we say, his tongue in his pocket. Like he will talk if he needs to, like his message to get across, and he will be honest. So I think that's going to be very interesting because I want to talk with him and Tafo, which is our GM, a League of Legends GM at CLG. We're going to talk about a couple of things. I want to address obviously NA versus the world, which I think right now the situation in League of Legends in North America is at least the look of it is really grim. Like the community is very negative about the solo queue and just overall the issues. So I want to hear his take on it, obviously. I also want to talk about the LCS broadcast this season. There's a lot of, I don't want to say drama because that's not really the right word, but there's a lot of chatter about how the desk looks and how like boring it kind of is now. And although I don't know that because I can't compare it because I'm not like a crazy League of Legends person. I don't watch LEC and I don't watch LCK, so I don't really know the differences. When I watch clips of the other leagues, it does feel like it's a little more original and entertaining. So why is it here like that? He probably has like a really cool and insight view on it. And I want to talk also about what he thinks about, the CLG state with Tafo. Like, I want to hear that. Having this discussion, like, we didn't change a player
right
from like, in a way, we're kind of crazy, right? Because only crazy people don't change anything and expect things to go better. So I'm excited to see what he thinks about that move. It's very interesting. Also, it's gonna be 4 a.m. for him in Korea, so he's gonna be a champ to be on the show. I really appreciate it. He did not even hesitate. So this is what I mean about this guy that sounds very interesting. Like, no ego, 4 a.m. in Korea. Let's go. I'll come on your show. It's not always easy to get people on shows like that. Like, even for 20, 30 minutes to just discuss. Like, if I could, I would have everyone, but it's actually pretty hard.
Yeah.
So for him to say yes, first of all, I was already shocked. And then when people told me he's in Korea, and I'm like, what? Like, that's so cool. So that's also a cue to everyone that says yes at home. Thank you so much. Like, from the people like Trisha Fleckwa, she did not hesitate. She said yes right away. Or sometimes we had Michelle Moreau. We're having amazing guests that are just like, yes, let's go. So these are the kind of discussions I want to talk to him about. And I want to talk about Tafo, because, we lost our first game pretty badly. Okay, it was actually the first time I've ever seen in my life, because I don't follow that much league, a team get completely, I don't even know if there's a word for it. I'm assuming there's a word for it.
Perfect game.
Perfect. Exactly.
Perfect game.
We got perfected. I've never seen that before. And then that's the first game after losing, right? Almost all season last season. So it was really negative on socials. And even the LCS desk is really incredibly difficult. And the journalists and everyone was like, not sugarcoating things.
Yeah. How dialed in are you on CLG's social media, or on, like esports social media in general? How much do you follow that?
So,
just out of curiosity.
So I think from being pretty old and seeing for esports and seeing everything, I follow it a lot. Do I care? Not really. But I follow it a lot. I think it's part of the job to know what's going on out there. And I think you can always learn from that. Like, there's a lot of great things that are happening on other teams, and they're really inspiring. So I think I need to follow it. But do I care? Not much. I used to care, especially when it was about my performance in the game.
Right.
Or like females shouldn't play, or that you're only sponsored because you're a girl, these kind of things. That was really infuriating. So I used to care a lot, but I've learned that I will not win all the battles, and that I should just care about the battles I care to win about. So which is that my peers and my surrounding are better. Quote aside. So yeah, it was really rough. It was rough for me because it's only one game. So even if I was a competitor, if I was on that team playing, after one game in the season, you get trashed like that. Like, I'm just, you guys really love to hate us right now. It was more about that than about the performance. So that was like, I want to hear what Tafo thinks and what Ellis think. Like, I know they're probably gonna be like, who cares, blah blah blah, but I still want to hear it. I still want to hear like their thoughts on it. It's interesting for me to hear someone that says we don't care. Like, I like it. I like to think that they're so focused. Like, you listened to the show, 6A said that even mid-season when they were losing like 2-10, or it was really bad, at no point did they even think about giving up and focusing on next season. They didn't even think about it. They didn't care they were last. They fought every game until the end. And that was like, oh shit. Like, even if I respect Trevor so much, because we joined CLG almost at the same time 5 years ago, it was great to hear that from him, that he didn't quit, that even though they were losing, he always believed, he always cared. And that makes him like, yes, I'm proud that you're in CLG. It doesn't matter what people say. Like, everyone should hear that you never gave up, right? So that's why I like this week, because it gets me to know these kind of things.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's good to Yeah, that really struck me as well when he was talking about, because you know, if you've never been a pro level performer in anything, it's hard to know what that feels like to be so good, but you're still like the bottom of the best. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. Uh-huh.
these players don't like losing, and they don't enjoy being last. They don't enjoy being perfect gamed, and so it's always good. I've also found it interesting to pick those people's brains and see, you know, how does this feel? What's your mindset? How are you moving forward? How are you processing this? And it's reassuring for them to say essentially, we're just focusing on this game and focusing on winning, and that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you've mentioned a lot about diversity and women in the space, and I noticed that that's something that you come back to a lot, and you obviously seem passionate about that. I'm curious, and of course, we've had several. You know, it seems like pretty frequently we get different reporting about women in not just esports, but the gaming industry, the tech industry. You know, these sorts of spaces. I'm curious, since you've been in the space for so long, have you seen much change over time? Do you feel like that's an area that is improving, or maybe plateauing, or
Hmm.
getting worse? What are your thoughts on that?
I love the word plateau because when I try to explain it, I never think about that word, and I think that's the right way to see it. I think that it's been improving since day one, from like when I started to now. It's a ramp. Okay, it's improving, but we plateau all the time. So we plateaued in different games. We plateaued with the initiatives. We plateaued thinking about what we need to do. Like, you know, in Counter-Strike, we have female tournaments, which I've always said it's a band-aid. It's not a cure. And we never work on the cure. We always just put the band-aid. So these female tournaments are helping. There's more and more female gamers, but it's like a plateau at some point where the community, like even the investors, like the sponsors and the community and the tournament organizers, and even the orgs, like teams, they're like, well, we have a female team, so we're part of making a difference with the diversity. But that's a band-aid. You know, you're supporting one team at the top that's at a professional level with these female tournaments. And yes, it's creating more females inside the game, but it's such a small and slow rate that it's only gonna be beneficial to the winners of that pool, you know. And we're talking right now in North America, there's 2 official professional teams and the one that's like semi-pro in female Counter-Strike. So that's like 15 girls in all of America. And you think that's like, oh, we're making a difference for Counter-Strike or for esports women in general. No, it's not. It's a band-aid. It's helping. It's making a difference. It's the reason why I was a competitor, because I saw these tournaments. I was like, I want to be there. But it kind of hasn't evolved in the last 17 years. We're still in the same position. So regarding high level competitive, I think that's it. We plateaued, but we see sometimes success stories from the women that won the Hearthstone BlitzCon event, or the lady that plays Tekken on E-League. She won with her team, or Gregory in Overwatch, and Scarlett. And, you know, you see these people, Enrique Ortiz, like they're there. But like maybe like 10, you know. So that's why I think we plateaued, because if you look at the amount of players and esports viewers that there is, the stats show that on Twitch about 30% are women, and gamers it's 50-50, right? There's about the same amount of women that game than men game. So why is it not correlated to esports, into talent, into game developers? Like, why do we still see the stats in game development like almost no women? Like, we're talking between 5 and 15% of game developers are women, depending on the company. That's like not a lot of diversity, and it shows in sometimes the story, the characters, and even the games that these companies are making. So I do believe that it's getting better, but we're not doing enough. And from for any kind of minority, right? Like I was mentioning at the beginning. So so that's why usually I just decide to do things instead of waiting. And it's being really important for me because I went through so much pain and hardship to be where I am, and I don't want people to have to go through it again. And I do believe that by me voicing up in the media and like I talk on the media all the time in Quebec on radio, TV shows, like I'm like the reference when it comes to gaming, and I always take this opportunity not because I want to put my face out there. I do all of these for free. I just want to make sure that we have someone that is representative for me, what is it to be a good, responsible gamer, which is a model for people to follow, not because I'm perfect, but because I try and I care and I've done something on my life by gaming, with gaming. I followed my studies. I had a platform to grow, and I fought and I made a difference, and and I think that's important for little girls. It so many times in my career I've seen someone come to me, I started this because of you, or I even coworkers, not CLG, but coworkers at Ubisoft, even competitor that I won World Cup with, I started this game because of you, or I started going game development because of you, or the reason I joined CLG is because you showed me I could do it. And if it's not me, it's going to be someone else, but we need these people to like show up even when it's really early or on a Friday night at 8 p.m.
Yep.
We need these people to show up and make a difference. Talk to people in school, do conferences. I would say that 70% of my work is pro bono, because it matters. It does matter to me, at least.
Yeah, that's great. So what would you say to a girl who's in middle school right now who really enjoys gaming and thinks she's good at it, or is really interested in developing games? What's kind of your message for them? What would you say are some of the most important tips or most important factors in getting into those spaces?
Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that really helped me when I was a kid is that no matter what you do in life, it's gonna be difficult. And following your heart and your passion is actually gonna shift that mentality to being difficult, to kind of pushing that passion forward, and make it not difficult in the same way. It's not difficult because you don't like it. It's difficult because you know, like everyone, you got to start at the bottom, you got to make your way there, but at least you'll like it, and at least you'll care about it, and you'll want to make a difference. And I do believe that's why I changed my studies. After my bachelor in architecture, I was like, actually, let me try gaming. So I did a master in game design, and I was like, okay, yeah, now I get it. Now I know that's what I want to do, right? So I think that everything's going to be difficult. So you have to surround yourself with your peers and friends and family that care for your success, and that even if people tell you you can't do it, or you're not good enough, or whatever, because it's going to happen, you have people around you that are going to be like, well, can you learn from this? Or the next one is going to be okay. Or I'll make your dinner tonight. Like, let's celebrate your small victories. These little things really go a long way. And I do believe that without my parents, we would not be here today. They were my champions. They were my number one fans from day one. And if it's not a parent, it could be a friend, it could be a lover, it could be anyone. But you have these allies in life that it doesn't matter if you lose, you'll bounce back. I've been cut from Counter-Strike teams so many times where I lost salary, I lost potential championships, or I didn't attend events that I was like, this is going to ruin my career, and 17 years later, I was still there, still ready to win. So like, you don't know what's going to happen. And it's not because something is crazy today that it's going to hand your world. Something else is going to come, and something better is going to come if you don't give up. The only thing that will not happen in your career is that if you give up, that's it. It's the only certainty. There's no chance to go where you want to go if you give up. But if you don't give up, you will always have a chance to go where you want to go. And I think that so many times, even today, I'm like, maybe I give up. It's hard. It's hard working on the initiatives I work on, just because there's so many things to work on and so little resources and so little time and money. And, it's hard. But I chose to not give up. I choose every day to wake up and be like, how can I make tomorrow better? When the Black Lives Matter happened, the movement, when it started, it started years ago, but when it became really crazy in the US, it was difficult to understand what I could do. What can I do? I'm just a white girl from Canada that doesn't understand at all, right, what's going on. And I was like, maybe I should let someone take this one. And in a way I kind of did, because I just learned, got people to educate me, and it let other people in the company rise up and show us, and and we work together, and now we have so many great initiatives within CLG for it. And we're not trying to change the world, but we are trying to make our community better. So it's about showing up. It's always about waking up and showing up.
That's great. Yeah, well, I think on that note, we should end the interview. That's great. I think that that's a great message, and that should be something that we leave people on. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It's been great meeting you.
Yeah,
and
you too.
I look
Thank
forward
you so
to the
much.
episode this weekend. I'll definitely be tuning in. LS is a bit of a personality, so I think you guys are going to have a great talk.
I can't wait.
And if you want to learn about League of Legends, he's the guy to talk to. So
yeah, he's just really far. But I want to say thank you. You were really great. This is the kind of interviews I like the most. You didn't. Yeah. I talk a lot, but I also try to not overdo it. But you gave me the right amount of time for every question, and I felt listened, and I didn't feel like pressured, and I thought it was a great one.
That's good. I appreciate
that.
Thank
you so much.
Just trying to be a listener. So yeah, anytime. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.